And the UKIP leader, Nigel Farage, joins me now from Kent. Welcome back on the programme. We'll turn to your conference in a minute. I want to begin with foreign affairs, though. If Mr Putin's military threatens to invade the Baltic states, would you support Britain coming to their aid as part of a robust NATO response?
Yes, of course. And, you know, NATO's been there since the late 1940s and has been the best guarantor of peace in Europe during those intervening years. And if the Russians were stupid enough to think that we'd back down over them invading the Baltic states, they would be quite wrong.
OK, thank you for that. The latest immigration figures have left the Tory target in tatters. Some are even saying that the number of Romanians and Bulgarians applying for national insurance numbers vindicates the figures you talked about, when many people said you were greatly exaggerating. Yet when all of this came out, you were speaking to an almost empty hall in America. Why were you absent on the job?
Well, actually, when these figures came out, I was getting ready to go on the BBC, ITV and Sky and do radio interviews, and I did, quite honestly, as much media from Washington as I would have done had I been in Westminster.
You should have been in
Why
Britain,
was I in America? Well, why was I in America? Well, every single year there is this big Conservative conference, and a leading figure from the UK Conservative Party gets invited, and for the first time ever, somebody from UKIP got invited, and that meant the opportunity to sit down and meet some of the big think tanks in America, but perhaps more importantly for me in the short term, the chance to meet some of the really top-class campaigners in America, where you know, their methods of data profiling and campaigning in individual constituencies is way ahead of anything we've got in this country.
But the election's not, you should have done that before. The election's not far away. You had an open goal here in Britain, many would say, and you were off speaking to an empty room in America. Nobody was listening to you.
Well, I was being interviewed on the BBC from Washington as opposed to Westminster. With all due respect, I can't see the difference.
All right. Now, you told the UKIP conference that rumours of your demise have been greatly exaggerated. Why? Well, what rumours?
Well, there's been a lot circulating for the last few weeks, and this had been reaching the ears of some of our most senior backers and donors.
What are the rumours?
I was beginning to get a bit... Oh, the rumours that were put about was that I was seriously ill and unable to lead the UKIP campaign, which is why we'd not been firing our artillery pieces in the first 6 weeks of the year in the same way as the Labour and Conservative parties. And I just thought I would knock it on the head.
You said you were fit as a flea. In my experience, fleas are not that fit. Didn't you mean are you as fit as a fiddle, I think is the expression?
Well, it was a slightly sort of P.G. Woodhouse moment, I suppose. I am fit and well. I absolutely accept that I won't be in the London Marathon next year, but I'm certainly fit and capable for the next 66 days. It's still a very long way to go until this general election.
All right. Let's look at the state of your party in the few moments that we have this morning. I mean, a year ago, you told me, in the wake of a number of UKIP members you had to expel or disown because of what they were saying, that you would become much more professional and disciplined. Yet in recent days we've had one of your activists saying she didn't like Negroid features, another making racist posts on Facebook, and your leading gay rights supporter has resigned in disgust. In what way is any of that professional and disciplined?
All right, well, let's deal with the gay rights issue first, shall we? We have an LGBT group within UKIP. It has now got over 600 members. Indeed, last week, two were selected as parliamentary candidates in South London. And additionally, you know, we had Kelly Maloney, formerly Frank Maloney, the boxing promoter, appearing on our platform yesterday, explaining transgender issues to an audience who perhaps didn't know much about it, and Kelly Maloney received a standing ovation. So repeated attempts by the media and everyone else to paint UKIP out to be homophobic, frankly.
So why has your leading gay rights activist resigned in disgust?
Well, we have I repeat, we have a growing LGBT group within UKIP. Just in the last week,
why was the head of your LGBT group resigned?
Do you know something? In voluntary organisations, people come and people go. This young man has for 3 years held that post, and it's slightly ironic that he's walked away from it just at the very moment when much of his hard work has come to fruition.
Well, he's accused,
now,
he's accused the party leadership of not setting a gay-friendly tone. That's why he's gone.
No, it's interesting. I don't set a male-friendly agenda. I don't set a female-friendly agenda. I don't set a gay agenda. I don't set an agenda for all sorts of different minorities and interest groups. I think the most important thing is that in this country, we all live together equally under the law.
All right. UKIP MP, one of the two you've got, Douglas Carswell, victor of the famous Clacton by-election. He said this week, and I quote, that Enoch Powell was wrong. Immigration has been overwhelmingly a story of success. Do you agree?
Well, if you'd listened to things I've said about this repeatedly over the years, I have said that the 1968 speech that Powell made was so misjudged in terms of the words that it used that in fact what it did was to shut down the immigration debate for over 3 decades. And
so why did you say Enoch Powell was your political hero? You said Mr. Powell was your political hero.
In that regard, it was a really grave misjudgment. I think that what Powell did a few years after that, when Britain was conned into joining something called the Common Market, under a series of assurances that it was just about free trade, and please, you, the public, don't worry your little heads, there are no more serious implications, that actually Powell, and incidentally Tony Benn and Michael Foot, set out to the British people that actually this was about a political union that would take away the sovereignty of our parliament, would take away our ability to have relationships globally with other countries, and to resign a seat in parliament.
I understand.
To resign a seat in parliament.
Yes, he did that. But I'm asking about his attitude on immigration. Can I just get it right? Are you saying you agree with Douglas Carswell when he says that immigration has been overwhelmingly a story of success for Britain?
Well, it was overwhelmingly a success in Britain, and I would have argued just over 10 years ago that of all the countries in Europe, Britain was the one that had dealt with immigration the best and had the highest rates of assimilation. Unfortunately, since that time, we had a Labour government who really opened the doors to many parts of the world and subsequently boasted about it, and of course the European Union letting in 10 former communist countries, many of whom are very, very poor compared to us indeed. So the situation has changed radically. So
let me just get this right.
And perhaps it's no surprise.
Immigration's been a huge...
Perhaps it's no surprise that now 77% of the British public want something done about open borders.
So let me just get this right. Immigration in this country, in your view, has been a huge success until the last decade, when most of the immigrants then started to come from Poland and other East European countries. But until then, it was a great success. That's seriously your line?
At no point before 2004, and I say this as somebody who was elected to the European Parliament in 1999, prior to 2004, UKIP, as a political party, didn't even talk about immigration as an issue, because in fact, you know, we'd gone on for a long time with a net inflow to this country of about 30,000 people a year. By the early part, you know, of the 2000s, something radically had changed under Labour, and the big, big moment was indeed the opening of the doors in 2004. And it's from that moment that we have argued that open-door immigration, having literally no control over the numbers that come to Britain at all, was a mistake. And every prediction I've made, you know, has been shouted down as being alarmist, but every one of them has proved to be right.
Can you advise us, just in the public interest, as to the whereabouts of your manifesto? Because the person who was meant to be writing it has now gone, leaving behind only a series of bullet points. Your deputy chairman, she said she would publish it at the Margate conference. That hasn't happened. Will it be ready in time for the election?
No, no, that was never ever said. The idea we would publish a manifesto so long before a general election was never
hold on,
even
Mr.
seriously
Farage.
discussed.
Miss Evans, your deputy, she said, in January, I relish the task of putting together the final details, presenting a radical, sensible, fully costed manifesto at our spring conference in Margate.
Right. Well, that was a mistake, because one thing for certain,
well, you said it
this
hadn't been
general
said.
election campaign. This general election campaign has already gone on for far too long, as far as most of the public are concerned. People are getting bored to death. Every day there are all sorts of pronouncements being made by Labour and the Conservatives to appease all sorts of special interest groups. I think most of what's being said is already going in one ear and out of the other. And my view on our release of the manifesto is we should do it as late as practically possible, because I think by then people will want to see something fresh, new and positive.
OK, well, I hope it will still give us time to question you properly on it. We'll have enough time for that.
It will.
And I thank you this morning.